Hey, what's up? So in my last two videos, I got questions about how I'm getting my guitar tone. So in this video, I'll show you the two different ways that I got my sound for the last two videos. One was completely digital, and the other was my analog setup using a real amp and microphones. So let's get into it, and I'll show you the signal chain from beginning to end on both methods. All right, so every session I start a new Reaper file, and I'll go over here to track, and I click Insert New Track. All right, and I'm always going to add two tracks. So there's the second one. Now the first one is my DI signal, and then the second one, I'm setting up a stereo input on channels 5 and 6 to capture my microphones. Now you can see it's starting to pick up my room sound there. So that's setting up the session in Reaper. So what are all the other connections? All right, for tone one, let's follow the signal chain. So it starts with the guitar, then it goes to my direct box. Now for the amplifier, it comes out the through to my pedal board. And here I'm just using my TS92 Screamer and my Boss noise suppressor. And then from there, it's over to the amplifier. There's the knob settings if you want to check it out. This is a Valve King VX112. And then from here, I'm not using the speaker. In here, I'm going to my Harley Benton 2x12. And then from there, it goes into these two microphones. And you can't see very well down there, but this is an Audio-Technica AT2020. And then this is an SM57, and I have this shield that keeps the reflections from the rooms getting into the microphones. And then out those two microphones, then it comes over here to my Eurorack UB802. And what this allows me to do is blend those two microphones to get a different tone. And then obviously you have your main out. And then these are the two main outputs for the mixer, and then that runs into inputs 5 and 6 on the back of my Scarlett 8i6. Okay, for method 2, all that is it's going from the guitar, and then it goes right into the J48 from the input, and then it goes back out to the output, and then that's going into channel 1 of the Focusrite, and that ends up being this first track, input 1, and then the previous one ends up being this track, inputs 5 and 6. So you can see the microphone's picking up my voice. Then the only other thing I do with track 1 to get a tone is I go over here and I click Effects, and that brings this up. And then I have a bunch of Bogren amp knob plugins. So this is the BDH 606. This is the one I used on a previous video. The last video with the Gary Holt EMG pickups, I used my amplifier. And then see, that brings up the amp knob, and now that's on that channel. All right, so what you're hearing right now, that was just through the my lapel mic. Whatever you're picking up out of my monitors, and then the room sound. Let me see if I'm getting any sound up my amp. No, I think that's off. So this right now, all you're hearing is the Bogren amp knob through this lapel mic. Let me turn the amp on, and then I'll record some of each. All right, so what you're hearing now is the amplifier through the microphones. All right, now, oops, I forgot to hit record. All right, what you're hearing now is what you hear through the amplifier. Okay, so this is the Bogren amp knob. All right, cool. So that's the two different ways that I get tones down here when I record. Obviously, the cheapest and easiest way would be the Bogren amp knob. You wouldn't even need an 8i6. You could get the Scarlett Solo and then just plug your guitar into it and get that kind of tone for recording. The other method is a little bit more of an investment. You got two microphones. Those are about $100 each. You probably could find a single a 1x12 for about $100. I have one upstairs. And then an amplifier, that's like another 150. So what are we talking about? That's 450. And then the pedal, that's probably about $100, say 550. We'll just say 600 if you got the noise suppressor. You don't really need the J48, but I always recommend recording a DI. That way, if you forget to record or something, set it up wrong, you always have your DI signal that you can go back to. And you can always change your tone if you have a DI signal, you can reamp. And then the only other thing is the mixer. I think you can get these for like $50 right now. And then your interface. You have to have one that has extra inputs. So I think the cheapest one that has extra back inputs is the 4i4, and that's about $300, but you can check prices on that. So we're talking about like $800 to $1,000 for the analog setup versus $50 for a Bogren amp knob. And the thing about the Bogren amp knob, that's pretty much a mixed sound. You don't really need to do any kind of EQing or anything to that sound when you just put it right in your metal mixes, and that'll give you a good baseline metal guitar mix. All right, so I hope this helped. And if you have any questions about anything, just throw them down in the comments and I'll answer. And I will see you in the next video.